to Geeks and Grounds, a monthly game club and bi-weekly podcast where we play games and brew thoughtful conversation together. I am your host, Jenny Wyndham, and in case you're new or need a refresher, we focus on one game a month, really percolate over it, if you will, and we develop a knowledge and deep dive into its themes and mechanics and try to make the connections between what we're playing and our lives. Every month we have a new guest joining us in the cafe to add their expertise and their experience and their thoughts. And today we have video essayist and story-rich game aficionado, Katie of Katie and Cat Burger on YouTube. How are you doing today, Katie?
I am doing so good, Jenny. It is great to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm
How are
so
you doing?
excited. I'm doing great. Like, really, I was telling you just before we hit the record button, I just adore all of your content. Your video essays are so thoughtful and just like really wonderfully like concise. I feel like I appreciate they're also not 4-hour epics. You know, they really get into sort of like the meat of what I want to hear. And yeah, you just do an incredible job. So if you're not following Katie, please look at the links, do the right thing, follow the amazing Katie of Katie and Cat Burger.
That's incredibly kind. Thank you.
It is true. So at the start of every month, we like to do something a little bit different. We do an Indiescovery to highlight games that we think you should be keeping an eye on that are either recently released or coming out very soon, as well as set up the discussion for our game of the month. And this month is Kentucky Route Zero. And as soon as we decided that we were going to be doing Kentucky Route Zero, I knew immediately, like, the only name that jumped out to me was Katie. To be very clear, I knew I had to get Katie to come and talk because, Katie, do you like Kentucky Route Zero?
I'm obsessed.
So,
Oh boy. I'm so deep down the zero now. I'm never going to find my way back out.
oh, and this is perfect because you are like the expert in this game. I am playing it for the first time ever after wanting to play it for a very long time. And so I'm really excited to be having this conversation with you over the course of this month. And for folks listening, if you don't have this game already, you can pick it up. It is not too late. And you can join the conversation over in Discord or via our newsletter. You can find all the links you need at geeksandgrounds.com. But first, before we hop into our set up for heading into the zero for Kentucky Route Zero, let's go to the pastry case where we're going to get to know our guest of the month a little bit better and talk about the things that we're excited about outside of the game of the month. So we've got a few questions for you, Katie, that are just a little bit, that we go with everyone, just to help establish a baseline, of everyone who comes through the cafe. And the first thing is, when you go to a coffee shop or a bakery, what is your go-to order? Whether it's a pastry, a drink, both. What do you like?
I am a seasonal girly. I like whatever is fancy and new and the flavor of the month. I love a PSL in like
Yes.
October. Oh my God. I go for peppermint mochas in Christmas time. Like just
Mhm.
whatever is currently the flavor. I'm having that. I'm such a sucker for sugar.
Oh my gosh. It's so funny because I sometimes want to be that person, but I am such a basic, like, I go Americano or vanilla iced latte, and that is it. And so
It's
I always
healthier for you.
admire.
You'll live longer.
Right, but you've got the flavor of the month. That's like so exciting. Do you have a favorite, like, unique flavor that you've ordered that you hadn't seen before, or I don't know, that was unexpected?
It's not like I had a cardamom vanilla latte recently that
Mm.
was just so nice, and it was just it added a little edge to the vanilla latte, and it was just exactly what I needed. It was kind of a rainy day.
Gosh, that sounds so nice. I need to start getting adventurous. I have done a little bit of cinnamon and maple syrup in a
Oh,
latte, and that is like very good. I would say
ooh.
everyone give
I
it a
want to try
shot
that.
if you'd like.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And so as we're thinking about a good beverage to drink, one of my favorite things to do is watch YouTube when I'm enjoying a snack, and your channel is absolutely incredible. Could you describe what you do for anyone who maybe isn't familiar with Katie
Oh
and
man,
Cat Burger?
I can try. I mean, honestly, you did a better job than I did. So I like to talk about story-rich games. I like to talk about specifically how they can like help us weather difficult times in our lives or help us grow. I'm a maniac, and I say things like I think games are the most impactful art form that humans have ever created.
Mm,
So I find exploring games to be similar to exploring the depths of my own soul, especially like narrative-rich ones.
mm.
And I really like to look at sort of the Ludo narrative interactions. Sorry to use a buzzword, but I really like to think about how the way that the gameplay supports the narrative being told, and the way that the gameplay can kind of make that narrative like worm its way into your brain more.
Hmm. Well, you're in very good company here. I feel like the whole community, the Geeks and Grounds community, as well as myself, like that is all we love to do. So this is the perfect spot. Um, and other than Kentucky Route Zero, we have established you are obsessed with Kentucky Route Zero. But other than Kentucky Route Zero, what's a game that you would love to convince everyone to play at some point in their lives, and a little bit about why you think they should play that game?
Oh gosh, I wrote something down on our notes. What did I write? Oh gosh. Because like I think there's like three or four games that I always go to, and I don't remember which one I wrote. But I will just say the one that's on my mind right now, which is 1,000 Times Resist. I think if you like Kentucky
Yes.
Route Zero, 1,000 Times Resist is absolutely up your alley. It is about resistance, which feels really poignant in this particular moment in time. It is about women.
Hmm.
And it is about how cruel we can be and how powerful we can be together, and the difficulties therein. Yeah, no, I think if Kentucky Route Zero is my game of the 2010s, I think 1,000 Times Resist is probably going to be my game of the 2020s unless someone comes in here and
Hmm.
scoops it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Again, I feel like we're gonna get along so great because I feel exactly the same. And I mean, we played 1,000 times resist actually for this club last year,
Really?
and we it was oh my gosh, I could have spent the whole year just playing that game over and over and discussing it deeper and deeper because I felt like every time we thought we hit a level of understanding, a new detail emerged and
There's
I
so
couldn't
much.
oh, it's so good. So yeah, I'm here just like thumbs upping backstage, with your 1,000 times resist
I
recommendation.
felt like when I was writing, sorry if to plug my own stupid channel, but
Oh my
when I
gosh,
was
go for it.
when I was writing my 1000 times resist video, I went into this sort of deep dive into like Marshall McLuhan and media theory and stuff, and
Yeah.
I feel like I just like went deep. I felt like I was like Charlie Day with the red like Pepe Sylvia, Pepe Sylvia, Pepe
Yeah.
Sylvia, but like with Marshall McLuhan.
Oh my gosh, that's
Uh,
incredible.
um, but like, there's just so many potential layers, and I feel like I just went really deep on one of them, like really deep
Mhm.
down one tentacle. But there's 1,000 tentacles to go down.
Oh my gosh, it's so good. I was actually thinking that I should probably replay it at some point this year because, and like I'd do a dedicated replay, not just like, oh, I'll have it on and, watch someone else's Let's Play. Like, I want to sit and like really think about this game
Mm,
again because,
mm,
yeah, it's just so incredible. And I love that
absolutely.
post launch, the devs have really gotten their flowers, I think, in a way that, when I had played the demo and before launch, I was like, oh man, I think this looks really cool, but I don't know if a lot of people will pick this up. And against not all odds, but against a lot of odds, I feel like this game has really come out of the woodwork in a way that has made me so happy for the team.
That makes me so happy too.
Yeah. And the last question, which themes us a little bit more closely to what we're going to be talking about with the game of the month, I'm curious if you've ever gone on a long or like extended road trip.
What is the longest I just down the West Coast? Does that
Hmm.
count? It's like
I
barely
think
even a
so.
day.
I think that's pretty expansive, right? It's like
It's
more than I would say 6 hours or four to 6 hours in a car plus is a mini road trip at
okay.
the very
Okay.
least. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Then yeah, from Seattle down to LA,
Oh yeah.
it was a pretty long trip, but yeah, it wasn't across the country, which I think
Hmm.
is just like the prototypical The platonic road trip, I think, American road trip where you stop at all the
Yeah.
weird spots and stuff.
I did that actually when I was a little kid. I was a military kid and we were in Heidelberg in Germany and moving to back to the US. We flew into Florida and we did that Florida through the South, up through California, all the way to Washington, where we were going to be starting the school year. And our entire summer was spent in the car. And while I wish I could say it was a blast, my brother and I were at an age where we just did not get along, maybe I would say about 50% of the time. And so it was probably one of the most memorable in like not a great way summers that we ever had. But we did get to do a lot of those weird like road trip stops where you're just like, what is this random thing someone decided to create a pebble farm that people could come and look at? Cool, let's stop here. So yeah, that was the longest road trip for me. And
Did you do the giant
oh,
ball of twine?
we did not. I remember my mom wanting to, but then my dad saying we had to like skip it because of the timeline that we were on. And I remember her being quite grumpy about that,
Oh,
honestly. So
I think that's
again,
also part of the iconic road trip experience, though.
it really is. And so I'm sad because I have driven across the country and yet I have not seen that ball of twine. So
Oh
maybe
no.
someday.
A pilgrimage.
Yeah. The essential one for every US citizen is to see that one ball of twine.
We all got to touch it at some point.
Oh my gosh. It's like everyone else gets much more noble sort of like pursuits and like, yeah, we just got that, but that's all
Just
right. We
clinging
take
on
what
to
we
what
can
we
get.
got.
So what have you been excited about or getting into outside of Kentucky Route Zero this month so far?
Oh yeah, I got things for you, highbrow and lowbrow.
Yes.
So, I have been reading this book from the 90s by Brian Sutton Smith called The Ambiguity of Play. It's for like a book club, like a geeks book club on like book ludology and stuff. Book
That's
ludology, game
amazing.
ludology. And it's basically he's like breaking down like at this moment in history, these are the different reasons that people have tried to justify why we play. Like you play to
Mm,
gain skills, or you play because football's like war, and like those are two different types of ways of talking about play. So he kind of breaks them all down and like finds the flaws in each, and just tries to figure out like what's the deal with play? Why do we do it? He doesn't really have an answer, but it's a lot of really interesting rumination.
yeah. That sounds really cool.
It's been so much fun to it's really fun to have somebody to talk about it with, you know?
Hmm.
To be like, what is he talking about here? I have no I've also been rewatching Andor, for reasons you can probably guess. Uh,
Hmm.
um,
It's so funny because I still, as listeners of the podcast know, I have not watched Andor yet, but out of all the Star Wars franchise, I do believe it's the one that I would resonate with the most. And so I do need to watch it at some point.
I'll be honest with you, I don't like Star Wars at all. I think it's
Yeah.
Tolkien nonsense. Sorry, Lord of the Rings fans.
It's
I'm
okay. I
not a
am a
monolith
fan.
girl.
I'm a fan of Lord of the Rings, and yet I know I know the critiques, and I can be okay with it. But that's really cool to hear because I think so far I've had one other person who's not a Star Wars fan say that they watched Andor and loved it, but everyone else has been a Star Wars fan telling me that as a non-Star Wars fan, I would love it. So I
Right.
enjoy
And
hearing that you're not a Star Wars fan and you like Andor.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Really good characterization. It's like a spy novel. I'm sure you've heard that, but and then the other thing I've been playing. Have you been playing Perfect Tides Station to
No, it
Station?
is. I have a key and it is on my backlog as we
Oh my
speak.
God. It is as good as everybody's freaking out about.
Really? Oh my
Mhm,
gosh. For
mhm.
folks who haven't heard of Perfect Tides, how would you summarize it? Maybe do like an elevator pitch for it.
Yeah, I would say it's a memoir game. Memoir game's really hot right now. And it is about a woman who is starting college, and she was moving from a resort town to New York City. And one thing that's really cool about it is there's kind of this life sim component along with like a visual novel component. It's kind of like Consume Me like that. Um,
Mm.
though the life sim aspect is a little bit different in that you have the to like play with your like I don't know stats, or it's not really stats but the closest thing the game has to stats. You'll be reading books, and the books are like actual books that she read in college, or like watch a movie and it's like she's like I
Wow.
went to go see The Matrix Reloaded because it takes place in 2003 and everything is 2003. Which really takes me back.
Oh my gosh.
So it's been really nostalgic and also just like kind of a reading list as well of like, oh man, maybe I should read Civilization and Its Discontents by Sigmund Freud or Rot Magazine, which I guess was a porno
Yeah.
mag.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. So all of the media in this is actual media that you can engage with outside of the game.
Yes.
Oh, I love it.
It's so cool. And her writing is so good. It's just like so sparkling and insightful and like
Mm.
brutally honest about the way that we think about interacting with other people. I haven't encountered anything quite like it in a game as far as like this type of writing. It really feels like
Yeah.
a memoir.
That's really, memoirs are really hot right now. I feel like in games, which I am not complaining about. I think it's been really, really interesting to see. I'm trying to remember, Perfect Stock Tides, is that a sequel
Yeah.
or it is
Yeah,
a
yeah.
sequel? Okay, yes, I couldn't quite remember. So
Yeah, and the first one
very
she's
cool.
like in high school and like at in this resort town, and now she's going off to college.
Yeah. Oh,
Oh, yeah, yeah,
amazing.
yeah.
I have been mostly getting into not very highbrow things. My capacity has been so like at its limit that I'm just like, give me the easiest to consume everything, so I can just relax for a little bit. And so I've been watching um, Badly in Love, which is my, romance dating show garbage trash, but it's
Tell
so
me
wholesome.
everything.
So the premise for this is these are like sort of adults in Japan who I guess I forget what it's called. They're like sort of delinquents, like they didn't have great childhood, sort of experiences. Some actually get really, really heavy, but some are also like, yeah, I didn't do good in school and I like talked back to my parents and I got kind of in with the wrong crowd, and that's me. And it's about these sort of quote delinquents finding love with one another, and love in the sense of just do they have a connection. It's like a 2 week show.
Oh,
So
that's so
superficial in that
nice.
sense, but they're very, very sweet. And like, I don't know, if you enjoy sort of the more wholesome dating shows, like it's not about them getting married, it's not about them like finding out who's the hottest, it's just about these people just trying to connect with one another, with the overall like community service activity they're doing over the 2 weeks
Oh,
is organizing like a cafeteria lunch for this orphanage that's nearby. And I'm like, this is so wonderfully wholesome in that sense that you can't be that mad at it, you know. It's
no.
definitely staged. It's like the guys when they
Well,
meet,
yeah.
they sort of like pretend to fight, and you're just like, okay, I can tell this is really bad acting. But
So
that's
would you
okay.
compare it more to something like Terrace House?
Yes, it's much more like a terrace house than a I don't know, too hot to handle or whatever.
Mm,
So,
yeah.
all of those kind of shows, or like the Married Without Seeing, the
What
blind
was it?
marriage one.
Oh
Oh my
gosh.
gosh.
I've watched so much of it too, and I can't remember the name.
Yeah, which is very telling. I feel like that probably is
Love is
indicative of the
Blind.
quality. Love is Blind.
I
Thank
know.
you.
I know.
But that for me has gotten me like that's my wholesome reality show guilty pleasure that's been getting me
Mm.
through the last few weeks. I've been trying to just dole it out like one episode every 2 days. And I've been playing a lot of Hermit and Pig and Cairn. Hermit and Pig is a turn-based RPG about a socially anxious and awkward hermit and his pet pig. And they just live on the edge of the forest, on the sort of outskirts of town. All that he wants to do is live his hermit life, forage for mushrooms, and hang out with his pig. But of course, some hijinks ensue, very Earthbound like. A meteor or like stars kind of start falling, or like sort of celestial mushrooms, I guess, instead of stars. And that kind of pivots the action into the more surreal and like fantastical, but it's grounded in a story of resistance against this corporation that is removing the right for people to work for their food and putting the townsfolk at risk. And so there's like protest in this game, and I haven't finished it, but I'm excited. I feel like there's potential for some really good commentary, and I'm really hoping they go there because I think there have been a couple of games I've played recently that had that potential, and I thought they were going to go there, and they like just didn't quite make it. And so
Do you want
my
to name
fingers are
names?
crossed. I will say, and this is lovingly said, Discounty, I felt like could have gone. It was like so close. They had so many opportunities, and I don't know if that was maybe just not their goal or, whatever. But it's like, oh,
Interesting. Okay.
I would love to like have it go more because the potential
Yeah.
is right there.
Totally. Totally get that.
Still had fun with that game, but yeah, that was my dream. Like if I had to do some narrative direction there.
Yeah, totally.
And then Karen has been fascinating because I am not a climbing game girly. I don't normally like them. The Bennett Foddies, the like all of
Oh,
those kind of experiences. I'm not. I've tried. I appreciate it. I've tried, and I have failed, and that's
yeah.
okay.
Have you
Karen's.
tried baby steps?
I have baby steps. I have not finished yet, but I've been
Yeah.
playing.
Yeah.
I'm still. It's weird because I'm intrigued by the story, but I don't have fun with the mechanics
Fair.
necessarily.
So fair, dude.
But the story is that's the thing. It's like the story has been so intriguing. I'm willing to suffer through mechanics I don't like because it's
Yeah.
so it's really well done from what I've played so far. And Karen is very much like Baby Steps, actually, where I think Karen's more straightforward in its story. You play this woman who is trying to summit a mountain that has never been summited before. Everyone, Mount Kami, I think is what it's called in the game. Everyone has failed in the attempt, and she's like, I'm going to do it. I think it's a really great game about the people who are of that personality type who just have that drive and passion to an extent that I could never relate to be very honest.
Same.
And like what moves them and like what is driving them, even when they have people back home, even when they have these other things. And I think that's super fascinating. The mechanics, though, I'm like everyone is talking about how much they love it,
Yeah.
and I suffer through it.
It's okay. It's worth it for the plot.
It's worth it for the plot. I think the mechanics make sense for the story because you are controlling each limb individually as you are climbing this mountain, and I get it. I get what they're doing there. I'm just so bad at it. So
I mean, bad
the
gamers
competitive
unite, honestly.
exactly. Yeah. So it's like I can appreciate this, but also I'm so bad at it. I wish I could just like watch it, but I also am
Yeah.
stubborn enough that I want to play it. So
You're very convincing because everybody's talking about the mechanics, and I'm like, oh, maybe I should try the demo or something. But what you've said about the story has really sold me on it.
yeah, honestly, I think the story is really interesting. It's gotten me thinking about like how we pursue our passions and to what extent, and like the people who are the ones who are going up onto Mount Everest, or like the guy who climbed that building on Netflix a few weeks ago, and it's like the tallest freehand climb anyone's ever done. And I'm just like, what motivates you to do that? You don't have to, but something
Yeah.
about it is like capturing you to this point of almost obsession. And this game does a really good job of getting you to think about that. But yeah, I just am so bad at the mechanics. I was playing this morning, and there's a section that I've fallen maybe 5 times from this same section, and I'm just like, all right, well, we're gonna
Yeah.
put this down and go to work and come back later and see if something fresh comes up.
I'm always like, when I like, that feels like baby steps to me. And when that happens, I'm like, all right, I'll see if I ever see you again. Bye.
So
And
have
then,
you
like, I start
finished Baby
thinking about it.
Steps?
No, no, no. I'm in the we'll see if I see you again phase.
Yeah.
But like what's happened a couple times, like I don't know if I'm gonna finish this game, and then I'll come back to it because like I'll just be thinking about it during the day, and I'm like, oh, I guess I enjoyed it more than I thought I did. Um,
Yeah.
but largely, I don't care to be challenged in a game too much because
Hmm.
life is hard enough. I
It's so
do hard
real.
things every day. I don't need a game to teach me I can do hard things.
So true. It's funny because I also the pendulum really swings like hard both ways for me, where I go for like power wash sim levels of chill,
Mm,
and then like over the month of December, I was just honed in on Silk Song and like
really?
really making sure I got through it. So I very much go both ways, kind of depending on my mood.
That's
Um,
rad. I like that.
yeah. But really, it's not because I'm good at any of it. I'm just stubborn. I'm
Sure.
just really stubborn.
More important than being good at it, honestly.
Yeah. Um, and then just to finish out like what I've been into, I wrote this note a while back. So I'm trying to remember how far I got into it. My brother gifted me a book called Red Rising. It was just like this beautiful edition. I haven't read it. I don't think he's read it either. He just said he read about it and thought it sounded up my alley. So I'll have to report back and see, let you all know how it goes when I actually start it. But I'm reading a book called Fight Like Hell, which has been really inspiring. My partner actually bought it and then I took it from him. But this is a book about the labor movement in the US, and I have learned so much, even as a person. So I taught history and like social studies and history for middle schoolers.
Yeah.
And so I had to take history classes in college and getting my master's. And there's stuff that I did not learn about the labor movement in this book that I'm just shocked by, and it almost makes me want to go back to teaching because there's so
Wow.
much that I wish I could go back and tell my students. Thinking about the lesson plans that I was given and then taught.
Hmm.
Um, but it's a really accessible book. The
That's
author Kim Kelly, yeah, it's really it reads very smoothly. It's jam packed with citations, which I always appreciate. It's not just like anecdotal or vibes based
mhm.
nonfiction. It's very much cited and referenced and uses a lot of citations and references. And yeah, really, really good. I highly recommend it for folks if you're interested about the labor movement, because I
You
think we
have
all should be interested in the labor movement
mm,
currently.
Kentucky Route
So
Zero has thoughts.
yes, it's actually very fitting in terms of Kentucky Route Zero. So this is like supplementary material for the game, really.
Totally. Do you have a favorite labor movement fact that you've learned recently?
I think one of the things that I was really, I don't know, kind of like impressed by was how early the labor movement started and how it actually started a lot with, like, at least from the perspective of this book, which is primarily Western labor movement, again, American labor movement, in the textile mills. And a lot of women were at the forefront of the labor movement
Mm.
because they relatively quickly realized that the models that were being taken from Europe perpetuated this idea of keeping people who were younger. And then, especially women, they would get old enough to marry out. And the continuous movement out from the labor into marriage meant that there was always essentially like transient labor, I guess you could
Yeah.
call it.
Yeah.
And so it was built into the system where you could never organize because people would be out before they really had a chance to get in. And it's
So
just like seeing how early that started, those
man,
practices, it just was really fascinating to me because it,
fascinating. And how
yeah.
connected everything is, right? The system of
Hmm.
like marriage and like patriarchal focused marriage really
Yep.
affects the labor movement. Like all oppression's related, baby. It's all one thing.
Hmm. It really is. So, yeah, fascinating book. It goes from the start, of the American labor movement all the way to, it talks about Amazon, it talks about Starbucks. So it's very, very, I would say,
Interesting.
up to date,
Yeah.
like into the 2020s, 2022, like relatively modern. So, yeah.
You know, I always say, put it on my tombstone. The way that people misuse the word Luddite to be somebody who doesn't like technology, Right,
Mm-hmm.
because the Luddites, they were destroying the reason they were destroying their machinery was because not because they didn't like that the machinery was taking their jobs, was because they wanted to
Mm-hmm.
own the machinery themselves as a labor rather than let capital control
Yes.
it.
Yeah.
Drives me
It's
nuts.
it's wild. Yeah, I know. Yeah, and I believe actually that was in the book as well. They talk about that. So it's again really I would highly recommend it. Um so that is it for the stuff we're excited about. Now let's move into the games that we're excited about that are coming up, I guess, for the month of February, Q1, because we're kind of in that zone of time. What were the games that you had listed for the ones that you wanted to highlight?
Yes, I cheated and went for Q1 games because you took all the good February games. But it says that Steam says they're going to release in Q1. You have more info than I do, maybe. But
Hmm.
Forbidden Solitaire is coming out. It is this retro, really interesting looking game. It's like a love letter to the history of video games. There's references to like Roberta Williams, who of course like was big in text adventures and like King's Quest and stuff. She's in
Hmm.
there, and like she's referred to in there. And anyhow, but like the art itself, it's like you're going through this very old like Windows 95 style, like the chess master guy.
Oh, yeah.
It's
What a
like
throwback.
But it's like, what if that was an actual dungeon and then you would play like these little levels of like solitaire gameplay to like defeat these like old CGI monsters. And the gameplay loop itself is so solid. And then there's this investigation game around it because this was like a banned game or something.
That's
It's
incredible.
going to be the next Inscription. I'm calling it now.
I love it. And as a huge solitaire, like I love solitaire.
Me too.
I really love solitaire. So this is super cool looking.
I'm so stoked about it.
Oh, and I'm looking at the Steam page right now, and there's a demo available. So
It's really good.
everyone, you go play it. It looks awesome.
And the other one that I have here is Rita, which is sort of part crossword puzzle, part like puzzly sort of platformer type of game, where you solve you'll put in bridge as the clue to, or as like the answer to a clue in a crossword, and it makes a bridge form, and then you can go into a new area, and it's very sweet. And I really enjoyed it. I found it like really well designed levels. And there's this like really sweet story about a chick that's like, maybe a little bit different from everyone else, but she has this lifelong passion for puzzles, and it's very sweet. But I think what really endeared me to the game is my dog is obsessed with the music.
That's so sweet. Yeah, and you put just the cutest picture in the show notes.
I don't know if you can share it in like the newsletter or the Discord. Feel free
Oh, I
to.
will. Absolutely will.
But she was just like leaning as far as she could into the speaker because she liked the music so much.
So cute. What's your dog's name? If you
Her
don't
name?
mind
Oh
saying.
no, I'll tell you everything about her. I'm the secret. Her name is Pepper, and she's a dachshund mix,
Pepper.
and she's so long, and she's just has so much attitude and more energy than I ever will. She's about a year old. I love her so
Oh my
much.
God.
She's my everything.
She is so cute. I can see like the little spots, like I don't know if that's what the
Like a
name came from,
brindle
like the
pattern.
little,
Yeah.
yeah, the brindle
You
pattern,
see?
just like little
Yeah.
pepper specks. It's so
Yeah.
cute. Oh, yeah. So for everyone who's like, oh my gosh, wait, we want to see the puppy, you can go to geeksandgrounds.com, sign up for the newsletter, and you can see the puppy in the next edition of the newsletter for sure. Oh, so cute. Yeah. Oh, I got to play Rita when I was at PAX Australia last year, and it was so, so sweet. And the devs, they had little 3D printouts of the chick from the game. And it was so cute. And I have a picture of me holding it because I was just like, this is just too adorable. Uh,
Normally, if I don't finish a demo in one sitting, I probably won't come back to it. But this was the rare
mhm.
demo that I didn't finish it in one sitting, and I found myself like, no, I want to finish it. It was good.
Oh, dang. Yeah, that's a very good sign. For my titles, so Hermit and Pig came out on the 5th. I've already talked about that, so I won't dive into that even more. Just know it's great. Go play it. Dead Pets, a punk rock slice of life sim, came out on February 6th. This one is really exciting because it was originally being developed by Triple Topping. Triple Topping as a studio shut down a few years ago, and so the game as a result was canceled. The publisher Akupara saw this. I don't know the inner workings of what happened, but they talked to Triple Topping and were able to bring this game back, which is absolutely incredible. Because I don't know, especially in the game industry, we see so many projects that aren't able to make it because of this lack of funding and publishing support. So to see one actually make it back, especially a game that's super punk, super feminist. It's
Hell yeah.
about the punk rock music scene and sort of coming of age within it, or not coming of age. It's like being an adult and sort of coming of age as an adult rather
It's a
than as a
whole
teenager.
process.
It's a whole different thing, yeah. But it's neat to see a game like this that has a lot of these, I think, content and topics that you don't often see in games. Just be addressed. And it's got a really unique mix of visual novel esque moments or adventure game moments where you're going through, reading a lot of dialogue, and then mini games as you navigate sort of your day to day life experiences and earn money to make music and keep your band together, hopefully. Have you gotten to play this demo or play the game?
No, no, I keep seeing it around. I'm like, it's on my list, but I just haven't gotten there yet.
Yeah. Really cool team. I've gotten to chat with a few of them and they're wonderful people. So very excited that they get to celebrate this launch. And then Key Fairy, which is a game that I also saw at PAX Australia. This game, really hard to describe. So what they say on Steam is it's a pacifist bullet hell. And you essentially are you're moving around in this surreal forest that if you look at the images on Steam, it's like very jarring, like black and white, almost like scratch art, I would say.
Yeah.
At times it's a bit hard to read, but the goal is that you are just going through this forest, uncovering the magic and discovering the creatures within. And you are kind of using, it's almost like the Spider-Man's web, where you're pulling yourself towards the edges and sort of that's how you're moving around. You're not using like a D-pad to navigate. So the
Oh,
movement has
cool.
this momentum to it that's really
Hmm.
different and takes a little bit to get used to. Um, I honestly can't tell you that much about the story. I played the demo and it just felt like I was in a dream. And just weird
Nice.
things were happening and it felt really cool and I didn't know what to make of it, but I really liked it. And so this comes out on the 18th and I am very excited to see just what it is in its final form.
It's 3D.
It's I think it's 2D
It is 2D. Okay.
technically, but I think they do some layering, so it does
Okay.
have depth to it.
Gotcha.
Um,
Yeah, when
yeah,
you said
and
Spider-Man, I was like, oh, so it must be like 3D because like I guess the
yeah,
latest Spider-Man game came to my brain.
that's true. I guess yeah, Spider-Man, but 2D, black and white. I forget what it's called, but I remember being in like elementary school art class where we got this paper where it's like black on the top, but you can use like something to scratch it and color comes
Oh
through.
yeah, dude.
It
Oh, those are
it
so fun.
almost looks like that. Like the artist said, "Here, let's make an entire game using this unique paper where you scratch it and the color shows up sort of like in a negative space sense." It's very, very interesting. And it's all, or at least a good chunk of the assets, I think, are hand drawn because they had the book of all of these sketches at their booth. So super fascinating, but I
Cool.
don't know like really what's the end goal of this game is. It's just very whimsical, surreal, and it's weird, and I love it.
That's exciting. Okay, I need to
Yeah.
check this out.
Yeah. And for folks, if you're wanting a list of these games, you're like, wait, I got to keep track. You said everything too fast. Don't worry. It is all in the newsletter. If you're not subscribed to the newsletter and you're listening to this and you're like, I didn't get it in time, there is an archive of all the newsletters. So feel free. You can look back at the newsletter at geeksandgrounds.com and then sign up for the newsletter so you don't miss a future one. There, my plug. Boom. Did it.
Done. Check.
Check. We did
Sign
it.
up
All
for the
right.
newsletter. There's so many great Kentucky Route Zero resources in there now.
There will be, and that is the perfect segue because we are here not just to be excited about you attending or like joining the podcast and not just sharing our interests. We're here to set up the Kentucky Route Zero context for everyone. This game is really beefy. It is almost deceivingly, it looks deceivingly simple, but when you really dig into it, it could almost never stop. Honestly, it is the sense that I get. I have finished through Act 3, so I'm not done with the entire game. But for the rest of the podcast, we're going to try and go through some of the basic stuff about the game, as well as our personal histories, and then context for the game's development and just stuff that we think would help you deepen your understanding as you go through it. So there's no spoilers here. We're not going to be sharing, what happens at the end or anything like that. This is all in service of helping you understand the game as you're playing so that you can ask more questions and be excited for the discussion podcast at the end of the month. So I always like to have the guest do the honors of doing like the by the numbers and the Steam description and things. So would you like to take it away, Katie?
Yeah, let's see here. So, sorry, my stupid camera is blocking me. So, Kentucky Route Zero was released, first, Act 1 at least, was released February 22nd in 2013 by Cardboard Computer. This note here, it was released on Steam later than the actual release of the first act, which was January 7th, 2013, because it's a really small indie studio, so I suspect they probably did their own release and then they put it out on Steam. So, Kentucky Route Zero is a magical realist adventure game in 5 acts, featuring a haunting electronic score by Ben Babbitt and a suite of hymns and bluegrass standards recorded by the Bedquilt Ramblers, rendered in a striking visual style that draws as much from theater, film, and experimental electronic art as it does from the history of video games. This is a story of unpayable debts, abandoned futures, and the human drive to find community.
Dun dun dun.
How'd I do?
Like, oh my gosh. Amazing. Round of applause.
Thank you.
So good. Yeah. So I thought it'd be nice to start with our personal histories and kick off with yours because you have, I think, a longer and maybe more interesting history with this game because you've experienced it before. So I'm curious if you played this as it was coming out with each act, or did you hop in like at Act 3, or did you just play this all in one go, once everything was released?
Oh, man. So I played it for the first time in 2021 when everything was out. I believe it was a little while after Act 5 was released. My partner actually was like, everybody's talking about this last act of this Kentucky Route Zero game being released. What's the deal with that? And he wanted to check it out. And so we ended up playing it for a Let's Play. And then there's this unlisted, very embarrassing, terrible quality Let's Play of us, like our first impression of the game. And we our Let's Play energy was like very silly, we don't take this seriously. And it is completely at odds with the tone of the game. So we obviously didn't finish it, and then I put it down for a year, and I kind of just kept thinking about it. And then I just kind of decided one day, like, okay, I gotta finish this thing. And I think it was somewhere in Act 3 where it was like, okay, I need to learn everything about this game.
Okay, yeah.
I need to become the world's expert in this game. And I'm still working on that to this day.
Wow. Are you able to share, I guess, if it's possible without spoilers, like what about Act 3 switched it for you, like really got you into this game?
Yeah, yeah. I don't think it was anything in the plot. It really
Mm-hmm.
was just about vibes. I think it took it.
Mm-hmm.
Playing Kentucky Route Zero is a lot like reading a book of poetry, and I don't think I quite grokked that until the third act.
Mm-hmm.
So much of it like just went whoosh, way over my head. And then when I realized, I can't remember exactly what particular thing it was, but there was something, some plot beat or some reference to something that I actually recognized, and I was like, "Oh my goodness. There's probably 1,000 of these tiny references in here that I was just sort of glossing over as I was just sort of in this half asleep moment," is something I think we'll probably talk a lot about. Just
Mm.
sort of in a reverie playing this game, as though you were just like lazily reading a book of poetry and just sort of letting the poetry wash over you. And I thought, okay, well, it's cool that there's all this poetry. And then there was just a moment where I was like, no, there's so much substance and background, and this is a journey we're going on, and I need to be more present in the journey. I think is what I realized.
Yeah. Ah, I love that your comparison to this game to reading poetry is such a good one. I was actually just talking because I really loved teaching poetry when I was an English teacher. Because again, middle school you combine English and social studies because that's just how it is in schools in the U.S. And poetry I think is incredible because of the ways that I think repetition is so important. Like revisiting poetry is where you really can get into that understanding. With this game, I can already tell, like, my second playthrough is maybe even going to be better than the first because the context for the whole thing is there, but also that like half asleep sort of feeling that you mentioned. Like that's perfect. Yeah, that's beautiful. I love it.
Well, I stole it from the devs. It was their thing.
They did a good job
They did a great job.
describing that. Yeah. What were some of the like I guess if you can remember, maybe not with the very first like sillier let's play, although that's super valid too, honestly, if you went in and you like want to highlight some of the feelings there, but what were some of the big feelings that you remember uh coming up as you went through the story for the first time?
Yeah. I think con- contradicting feelings. On one hand, I find surreal stuff very delightful, and it's a
Hmm.
magical realist game. There's all these like bizarre happenings that just sort of occur to you, just by being in the game, and I was really delighted by those moments, especially when I first hit open the game and I had no idea that it was a sad game, which is crazy in retrospect. Um, and then just like repeatedly being hit over the head with the reality, the less magical side of the reality of these character situations, how hopeless they are, how few options they have, and how many people in the U.S. are living these lives. Like it's
Mm.
not that crazy. Like a lot of people are living like this, despite having the skills or having the drive or just even not having any of those things. You deserve to live a life.
Hmm.
And yet,
Yeah.
and yet you find yourself on the zero.
My gosh, getting chills right now. Just like thinking about it. We have to wait 2 weeks to dive into the full thing. Oh my gosh. The last thing in terms of personal history, because this game is set geographically, in Kentucky. You've got Appalachia, you've got some like the South represented, and I thought it would be really nice, again, based on comfort levels, for us to share maybe our geographic backgrounds, because I think that can inform at least the perspectives that we're coming into this with,
Yeah.
comparatively, especially because this game is so geographically specific.
Yeah. Absolutely happy to do that. I am from the West Coast, like all over the West Coast too. And I'm what you would call a coastal elite, I suppose. And I had very little connection to Appalachia. My mom is from Oklahoma, which is pretty far from Appalachia. And that's probably about as close as I got. Um, yeah, and so it was weird how, especially in researching the game and researching the history of Appalachia, and as I was releasing the video, like while I was editing it, Hurricane Helene happened, and I
Mm.
found myself like feeling fiercely protective of this region. Like, even though I don't have like a background there, but I was just like so angry on behalf of these people. But we'll get into that.
Hmm.
But yeah,
Yeah.
despite like not being from there at all, I now feel like, oh man, if I went to Appalachia, it would be like a spiritual experience for me now.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Do you have any plans maybe to visit? When
One day.
like one
One
day.
day.
That's so cool.
What about yourself?
Yeah, I am also West Coast, pretty through and through. I mean, I was a military kid, and so like grew up in Georgia for very early parts of my childhood. I still have family in sort of that deep South area, but we moved maybe every 2 to 3 years for most of my life, and so saying that I'm from the West Coast is mostly because once I went to university, that's where I decided like my quote home would be, and
Yeah.
that's where my mom ended up staying. And so even though I've moved up to Alaska, I've gone other places since. West Coast is kind of where I just feel like is home at this point. But yeah, I think I've got family in Korea, family in the South, and then West Coast. So it's a little bit hybrid, but I don't have really any experience with East Coast or Appalachia or like Kentucky specifically.
Mm,
So
yeah.
I think it's been interesting because most of my experience has been through reading books, seeing things in the news, and then some of my own just personal research. Just especially in the last few years,
Mm,
just trying to learn a little bit more about just different places in the US and what's, especially in light of what's going on right now. So,
yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
But I'm curious, how did you come across this game? Like, what was your first
Yeah.
brush?
It's really fun. My first brush with Kentucky Route Zero was, I think it was a PAX West, maybe 2018. Um, it had to have been around then because it was before I was in the game industry. So maybe 2017. And I was attending just as for fun. And it was the last day, Monday. They were getting ready to close the booths, and I just wanted to squeeze in like one more little demo. And I saw Kentucky Route Zero there. I started playing. I don't even remember what act it was. It was like in the middle, like someone had picked it up, started, and walked away, and I just kind of like jumped right in.
Yeah.
And I just remember being so struck by the visuals. And it just seemed so like melancholy compared to everything
No.
else I had played that weekend. And so that was it. And I didn't even get to finish it. I think I played for maybe 3 minutes and they were like, you gotta go. We want to go home. And I was like, okay. So, I left, and from that point, I had wanted to play it, kind of kept it in my backlog, my mental backlog, but never really got the chance to. And so the fact that folks were voting for this game and discussed wanting to play it in this club made me really excited, because it's one of those that I keep sort of pushing off because I know it requires a lot more mental capacity than just, again, Power Wash Simulator, just putting it
Yeah.
on, having a podcast in the background. And so I'm really excited because I think this is the kind of game that I've been waiting to play with other people, because
Mm-hmm.
that for me feels like that's going to be a more fulfilling way for me to play than just by myself. So I'm
Oh,
very
that's awesome.
excited.
We're gonna have a great
Yeah,
time.
I'm so excited. So I wanted to dive into what we know of, and this is not like for anyone who's listening, this isn't the end all be all comprehensive history of the game's development. We don't have time for that. But just a little bit about what we know of the development, just so you have an idea of like just what the developers went through as they were creating this game. We have the note here. They ran a Kickstarter campaign, and Katie, you put the note of how the game that they pitched in the Kickstarter is very different from the game that we got, and I was wondering if you wanted to dive into that a bit more.
Yeah, I can't remember which dev like talk I was watching. on the game, but they almost described it as like, oh, there's all these different characters in Kentucky Route Zero, and one like specific thing about Kentucky Route Zero is your point of view as the player keeps changing between characters, and it seemed like what they had is like, oh, well, every character will have like a power and ability to unlock a space, right? And so you're kind of like Mega Man, but with characters, and it's like this very Metroidvania type of thing, and that's not what we have at all.
Yeah, that sounds like such a different game.
They talked about picking up like keys and stuff. It was
My
crazy.
gosh.
But what we have instead is this game that's actually very deeply inspired by text adventures, and even the very first text adventure, arguably ever, which you might know as Colossal Cave Adventure, or it was just called at the time just Adventure.
The SEO was so different back then.
So real.
Oh my gosh.
And if you'll humor me to go into a little bit of history on it.
Absolutely. Please do.
So, Colossal Cave Adventure, or Adventure, was created by this man, William Crowther, who was a DARPA software engineer in, I believe, the 80s. So he invented the internet. Was one of the guys who invented the internet, basically.
No big deal. Yeah.
And he was also a huge caver. He and his wife, Patricia Crowther, both huge cavers. And in fact, Patricia Crowther was a really accomplished spelunker. She like discovered the connection in the mammoth. There was like this huge mammoth cave system, and then there was this other cave system with the name I can't remember right now. Sorry. But she discovered that these two major cave systems, which were thought to be separate, were actually connected. And she was able to do this because she was like a really small little lady.
Oh my
So
gosh.
it was through like her femininity really empowered her to be able to make this big geological discovery, which I think is really cool. And anywho, they got a divorce. They had 2 kids together though, and William Crowther started to code this game. And like the story goes that he coded it to like as a way to like talk to his daughters about this place, this because the Colossal Cave Adventure is based off of the Mammoth cave system in Kentucky that he and his wife spent so many hours in together, and he just sort of started to recreate it digitally.
My gosh.
And the story goes that he was doing this, as a way to like play with his kids and interact with them, and so that they could like explore and find stuff, and that would be fun. But I find it very hard to believe, and this is just me editorializing here, that this was not a man who was like not finding a way to cope with his divorce through a project.
This feels, yeah, I would
I mean,
very
who
much
among
agree.
us?
I'm like, no judgments, but it just feels very
Honestly.
relatable to that level, Oh my gosh.
I don't know. Maybe that's the solution to male loneliness. Maybe everybody needs to code a text adventure.
I think we found it. The cure.
And so it had no goblins in the time, but after, like, people made mods to Colossal Cave Adventure, and they started adding goblins and these, like, very Tolkien-inspired monsters and grus and what have you, and it eventually became Zork, like an offshoot of it. And so it's, like, really foundational to gaming. And so Kentucky Route Zero is in many ways like a spiritual sequel to this game. And you can find references throughout the game to other text adventures. And I go into depth on William Crowther because there is a character in the 3rd act that we'll meet. If it's, as long as I hope this isn't a spoiler, that is
Oh,
like
no, that's fine.
very closely based on William Crowther and what he's been up to, looked at through like a very magical realist lens. And so anyway, his ghost is in the game in a lot of ways.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool. And also it makes me I forget what the word, there's a special word for it, or a specific word for like the anime pilgrimage, but it makes me think of like folks who are super into this game. I'm wondering if the Mammoth Cave system had an influx specifically of people coming after playing this game and wanting to go caving and
Oh,
exploring in
yeah.
these caves that were a part of the lore of this game
If
in
there
that
isn't,
way.
you and me need to start it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, we
Let's
do.
do it.
Love it. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I think what's really incredible is just how much this game has evolved and just knowing, because it was part of a game that did a Kickstarter and it evolved quite significantly in the time. I also looked at that and said, very relatable. Of course, you make a game and you think you know what you're going to make, and then once you get into the nuts and bolts of the thing, it's going to change dramatically. And that is both the joy and the maybe flaw of Kickstarter and games specifically because of that process and how volatile game making can be. But how cool is it that that's what this game evolved into? I guess that the game evolved into what it is today versus being this much more
Traditional.
traditional,
Oh,
yeah, kind of
yeah.
experience.
Yeah.
So I think it's really neat that the team sort of chased that instead of feeling like they had to stick with what they pitched
Oh, yeah.
from the jump.
Honestly, I have so much respect for these folks as artists. Um, yeah, just real people who really stick to their guns and did not did not fall into any of the indie industry traps that you see.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. You mentioned a couple of times there's a lot of surrealism, a lot of magical realism in this game. Really quick, because I know we've said this and maybe it's, maybe everyone knows what magical realism is, but I also thought it may be good to start defining some of these terms because there's a lot here that maybe folks aren't as familiar with, depending on just what kind of media they engage with. So, for magical realism, we're talking about magical elements in an otherwise very realistic world. So, thing like a world like we live in today. So that's just putting that out there.
Yeah. Can I add on
Know
to
if you have
that?
any, yeah, I was gonna say if you'd like to
Yeah.
expand on that.
Yeah, I think you've done a really good job of explaining it. And then I would just add on that, like, the magical realist author that everybody points to is Gabriel Garcia Marquez, who we'll see
Hmm.
referenced in the game explicitly. Um, and he was writing specifically about political situations in South America. So it is an
Hmm.
inherently very political genre. And if you want a piece of magical realism that you can enjoy in an evening, check out Encanto,
Yes. Oh my gosh.
based on a Gabriel Garcia Marquez book.
It's so true. Yeah. I mean, I feel like you may have heard of Marquez just from like, well, also because the name will be in the game. So if you've already started playing, you might be like, wait, what? This is the same last name. Yes, it is. But also, I didn't realize this, but Love in the Time of Cholera, that's his. 100 Years of Solitude, that's his. So it's like you may not know that you know this author, but you do maybe.
He's all over the place,
So
man.
yeah, all over the place. I think what's really interesting too is that this Gabriel Marquez specifically was an author that thematically explored a lot about solitude. And I think it's really interesting because also this game just inherently feels very lonely at a lot of times and it explores solitude in its own ways. And so that's just another theme, not having to do with magical realism, but just that the author kind of maybe they brought in through some of this author's work as well.
Yeah, yeah. And then I would say the other literary touch point, I totally forgot to put this in the notes, but was Southern Gothic literature was also a really big
Yes.
influence. Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, I think did I put it in there?
Did you? Okay,
I
okay, good.
might have.
Fabulous.
Maybe I did. Yes, I put it just lower down.
Okay. Yeah, excellent,
Yes.
excellent, excellent.
Um, I can kickstart it and then you can add on anything you'd like. But basically, Southern Gothic focuses on the South in the U.S. Specifically. In this case, we're also looking at Appalachia because Kentucky kind of is in that like sort of northern of the South, I would say, like kind of region. A lot of Southern Gothic work explores the pressures of the past on the present. And within the South specifically, you have pressures of the past talking about like racism, slavery, all of the social, political, and like economic like denials and how they are confronted with in terms of the ways that we idealize the South and the ways that we grapple with the realities of what they actually were. And then a lot of exploration on decay and despair. So this is mixing like a little bit of that horror element, which is the gothic side of things.
Yeah.
I feel like that was a bit jumpy. Anything you wanted to add?
No, I thought it was great. I really
Yeah.
liked it. Yeah, and it just made me think of like five different examples in the game where I'm like, oh yeah, no, decay, despair, yeah, endings, social economic pressures. Yeah, no, it's all there. It's all there.
Yeah. Another inspiration that I think, in addition to like the literary ones that we just mentioned, is the inspiration of theater, set design, scenography. You put a lot in the notes about that, so I'd love for you to
Sorry.
kick off. Like, no, it's like exactly what I dream of,
Yeah.
honestly. Would you like to kick that off?
Yeah, yeah. So, when you play the game, most of the views that you'll experience are you are sort of looking dead ahead, and it's almost like it's a side scroller to start with. But really, what the intention is that you're looking at a stage at a proscenium. Um, and so in building these levels, they actually built them like they would build a proscenium, like layers of stage and set design. And I think you can even see like some of the places that you go are explicitly based on specific famous sets, and we'll talk about that. But just to forward promote, check out Death of a Salesman if you haven't yet.
Hmm.
Oh man, you were talking about you mentioned the movie in here. Were you talking about the Dustin Hoffman one?
Yes. Oh
Dude,
my
it's so
gosh.
good.
It's so good. It's
Oh
so
my
good.
God, with the John Malkovich, like, I am what I am, Pop. Oh my God, it just
Yeah.
gives me chills every time.
And also, it's so funny because I started this a couple weeks ago. Started the game. I instantly there's a house in there that honestly almost instantly took me to Death of a Salesman. I was
Yeah.
like, wait a second, this feels okay. And then just I went to YouTube, tried to find the movie, and this is when I learned that my partner has never seen or read Death of a Salesman. I was just like, we need to stop everything because
So good, dude.
you
It's so
need to. Like this is one of those I feel like for a lot of high schoolers in the US, this is a part of the curriculum. Not everywhere, but this is a pretty standard like high school text or play that gets read. I will say rewatching it now in my late 30s really hits different. Um,
good. Hmm.
I enjoyed this play as a high schooler, and I was like, yeah, this is really good.
Yeah.
And I think this is the first time I've revisited it in its entirety since high school. I've seen like excerpts, but I didn't sit and watch it until like 2 weeks ago. Oh my God. Like,
God. You start to see yourself less as John Malkovich and more as Willie Loman.
yeah,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
not great. Yeah,
It's
it's like, oh
oh
no.
my God. Oh my God. And like, oh man, yeah, no, I have a personal Death of the Salesman fanfic that I want to write about Willie Loman's wife,
Oh my gosh.
and how she like knows that he was cheating the whole time, and because like she
Hmm.
doesn't actually have that much internality, but her lines are really well written. Because I mean,
Yeah.
Arthur Miller, come on, uh, but like I think you could add so much more to that character, and it feels like a little gap in the play, but I mean it's perfectly written and you need it for the pacing and everything, but I want a
Hmm.
sequel based specifically around her.
Oh my gosh, we have reached a level of nerdiness that I am so happy about. Like, we are now in a video game podcast talking about Death of a Salesman fanfic, and
Yes.
this is like I've I've made it. I think this is it. I think this is the peak.
It's my happy
This is
place.
amazing. Yeah, I love this so much. So thank you for bringing me so much joy.
Thank you for letting me expound that out of my soul into the world.
Oh my gosh. I'm so when you write this fanfic, I will be the first reader. I'm
Oh
just
my
so
god.
excited.
Excellent. Fantastic. It's happening. Um, But I think talking about Death of a Salesman is a great segue into Cruel Optimism, which is not explicitly referenced in the game anywhere, but it is, for me, a really core aspect of understanding Kentucky Route Zero. Actually,
Hmm.
I'm realizing in this moment when I was talking about like my initial like experiences with the game, I completely overlooked something just by mentioning Cruel Optimism. So I played this Let's Play, right? And it was just like really silly and goofy, and then I put it down for a few years. And I remember what it was that made me say, like, no, I need to get back to that.
Hmm.
I picked up a book by Aubrey Annable called Playing with Feelings. I would say if you want to understand how I look at games, like that is like my textbook. Like that's my Bible for like how to understand video games. Um, so it uses affect theory. So thinking about how does this experience make me feel, and then how does that affect the experience, and then how does that affect me in a greater way. Um, and so she, in her book, Playing with Feelings, has a whole chapter about Kentucky Route Zero, specifically talking about the way that it references the way that women in technology have been overlooked and overshadowed sort of consistently throughout history, which is not something that I thought about at all when I was writing my essay. But like it was her angle on it, and she did an amazing job talking about that. And in this book, she keeps returning to this concept of cruel optimism, which is from a whole other book by Lauren Berlant. And if we think about like, oh, the broken American dream, the American dream's a lie, we're all like walking around like temporary embarrassed millionaires. Cruel optimism is in my mind a framework for dissecting that. So
Hmm.
the definition of cruel optimism is it is the thing that you are optimistic about is keeping you from flourishing. And what that means is that, for example, you have a terrible job, but you want your boss's job, and you think if I just stay in this terrible job for long enough, I'm eventually going to get promoted, right? You have this optimistic belief, and in the meantime, you staying in this job is keeping you from flourishing. It's the thing that's keeping you from being happy. And
Hmm.
Lauren Berlant, in her book, describes this as like a quintessential American experience. And she sort of breaks down what are the parts of cruel optimism, and she talks about this thing called the impasse. The impasse is the place that you are at, right? It is that boss that is never going to leave their job or never going to promote you or whatever it is. It is the lottery ticket that's never going to pay out. If you're Willie Loman, it's the job that you're, or like the sale
Hmm.
that you're never going to make, or the seeds that'll never grow. Um,
Hmm.
and I think that Kentucky Route Zero sort of takes you from scene to scene, and most of the scenes take place after the impasse. That moment where something has broken, and you're never going to get that. You get fired or something, or the company closes down or whatever. Or, there's a big mining accident, for example, in the game,
Hmm.
and there's no more jobs, and a lot of people died. And it is, what do you do after the impasse? How do you pick the pieces? How do you build a life after that, from that? What grows from that? And I think that Kentucky Route Zero is about being lost in that place. And I think it's about also finding your way out. It's sort of, in my mind, it's kind of a roadmap out of the impasse.
Hmm.
Super long. Thank you so much for letting me go on and on and on. Like, I warned you that I can go on about this game.
No, again, this is like my hope. This is my dream coming to life right now. Yeah, honestly, when you had put cruel optimism into the show notes, I'd never heard of this concept. I'd never heard of this book. Looked it up, and I immediately just went and ordered it from my local bookshop because I just, between the synopsis that you had put and the way that you were connecting it to Kentucky, I knew that I'd want to read the hard copy of this. And so I'm very excited. It's coming probably in the next week or so. And that was hearing you describe this, especially the concept of the impasse and how a lot of the scenes we see in this game are right after that, like images flashing through my head. like even if someone's playing in the first act, if you have this concept of the impasse in your head and you're driving around and you encounter any number of the more sort of not random necessarily, but the sort of surprise, I guess, encounters along the side roads,
Yeah.
it feels so clear within that context of what you just said. So
Yeah.
I'm very
Yeah.
excited for people to have that in their heads when they play.
Yeah, even I think one of the first places that you can go to, I'll just spoil this. If you go like left instead of right, I don't remember actually which direction it is, but you will run into a car, like a truck that's
Hmm.
crashed on the side of the road. And that is after the impasse, if I've ever seen it.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness. And you had one other theory that you wanted to that you put in the notes that I was wondering if you wanted to share currently, as folks are going through and maybe something that they could be thinking about as they're playing through each of the five acts.
Yeah, I think this. I think sorry for folks who are coming over here from seeing my video, and I'm repeating a lot of stuff. Hopefully, it's fun and nostalgic for you to hear me say some of the same things over and over again. But that video is based on my personal conspiracy theory that the five acts of Kentucky Route Zero represent the five stages of mourning. And
Hmm.
so we're going to be in Act One. We're going to be thinking about denial. We're not going to be accepting things. And by the time we get to Act Five, things are going to be a little bit, maybe not brighter, but there might feel like there's maybe a path forward.
Yeah, I'm really excited. Again, as someone who has not completed the game quite yet, is almost done. I'm excited to reflect on because I've been taking physical notes as I played because that's just my personal way
Okay.
of playing a lot of these games. And I'm excited to be going back and looking at my notes and starting to look at it through different lenses. And one of the lenses is through that five stages of grief, which I'm trying to remember. So the first is denial. My gosh.
Okay, I can do this. Denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance.
So, yeah, very
Every
exciting.
act gets a folk song by the Bedquilt Ramblers, and I found
Hmm.
these themes really strongly relate to the song that the Bedquilt Ramblers are singing. So just a hint,
Yeah.
a fun hint for you.
Yeah. And just to bring in the just a little mention of the soundtrack, this is an outstanding
Oh,
soundtrack.
oh my God.
I there have been moments because I've been listening to the soundtrack just outside of playing the game, which is something I don't normally do, but I thought I'd just try it with this game in particular. I listened to the soundtrack about a week before I started playing just to get into the mood of it, and being able to see where some of these songs have popped up in the game has been truly magical, and the way that they integrate the music in some of these cases have been really like, there was one in particular I was like this is just so delightful how they did this and like surprising in a really great way. So
I'm
just
so curious to hear what this is.
yeah, I'll make sure to remember to say it for next
Edge of my
time.
seat.
Yeah, it's just I've been impressed with the way that they've embedded it throughout the game, and also just it's I do love bluegrass. I'm not gonna I love
Oh, heck
bluegrass. I
yeah.
love this kind of like Appalachian folk sound. And then you have this sort of more electronic
Hmm.
vibe to it.
Yeah.
As a non-musician, I don't have the exact words to describe it, but it's just really great to listen to. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, such range Ben Babbitt has there. Like they picked him
Yeah.
up. He's an electronic guy, and they're like,
Hmm.
"Hey, can you learn to do bluegrass from scratch?" And he's like, I guys, I guess so." And he did amazing. They're incredible
It's
tracks.
incredible. Yeah, I would have never guessed that he learned for this game, to be very honest. So maybe someone who's like an expert, maybe they know more insider baseball of like what to look out for. But for me, the uninitiated and just more superficial fan, I'm like, this sounds great. Um, I'd love to go into really quick the acts themselves, just because the timeline is really fascinating, to me at least. We have 5 acts that were released. The first one was January of 2013. Act 2 was released May of 2013, which is only 4 months later. Act 3 was in May of 2014, so 1 month or 1 year later. Act 4 is in July of 2016, 2 years later. And
Mm-hmm.
Act 5 was January of 2020, which was an additional 3.5 years later. So this game took nearly a decade, uh, probably at the decade point, if we're adding in pre production and everything you do to prep for a Kickstarter, that is like a solid better part of a decade to
Yeah.
make and release this game.
Yeah.
That's incredible, for an indie team, especially.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I mean, they're trying to like pay the bills in that time, and the Kickstarter only gets you
Hmm.
so far.
Yep. Can speak to that for sure. It does not go as far as people might think.
Yeah. But you're trying to make ends meet, and then you just return back to this game, and you make it because you know it needs to exist, and thank
Hmm.
God it exists. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really incredible. Yeah, because I think, I don't know, we see the Fables and maybe like the Final Fantasy VII remakes, and these are games that have taken, a decade to make, but that is on AAA budget. That's AAA scale. This is a really unique situation where we have a indie team creating, and evolving their game, which is tied to economics, social policy, like these changing experiences that we are living through.
Yeah.
Like this game, I'm excited to discuss how it is and maybe isn't of the times that it was released, because I would
Oh,
imagine as they were writing it and seeing the stuff happening in the US in particular,
yeah,
around 2016, for example,
for sure. Yeah.
I'm sure that it impacted what was going on in the game.
Yeah. I mean, especially in Appalachia, um,
Hmm.
really important part of the country during that time period.
Yeah.
I mean, during all time periods, what am I talking about? Like, it's been like a resource powerhouse that we like completely forget about all the time. But anyway, we'll get into it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think we could just go in right now, because um, I think as a country, we kind of forget, like, this is where
Yeah.
coal mining,
Hmm.
huge industry. Um, and this is an area that is kind of, the Kentucky is an area that has seen so much boom in terms of that industry growing and fueling the US, almost as a whole. And then, going through so much exploitation as a result, and so much resource extraction, and not just of the land, but of its people. And I do think it's really interesting, because this game has gotten me, again, I'm reading about labor movements.
Yeah.
Kentucky has an incredibly long and rich and very violent labor movement history,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
I would encourage y'all to continue to read about, if you're interested.
If you're a documentary person, Harlan County is a documentary
Hmm.
on the strike in the 1970s, I believe, coal miner strike. Really, really striking stuff, like police officers shooting protesters' houses up at night,
Oh my
to
God.
intimidate them. Yeah,
Hmm.
no, really, really chilling stuff. And then, like complete denial of things like black lung. Black lung's not a thing. What are you talking about by the companies, and just like complete abdication of responsibility. Um,
Hmm. Yeah. So again, it's one of those things where I also, history is now, and we talk about, this is the past of the labor history movement, but this is stuff that's still happening today. That it's all intertwined. And so I think, as you're if you are reading up on the history of these labor movements and Kentucky and like what's going on there, trying to remember and making those direct connections to the fact that it's happening today, and like what does it connect to today, and how does the stuff that happened before impact what is happening now, and vice versa. Like, I think that's important to make sure history is not seen as like back in the day.
yeah, yeah. No, it's all there's a chain. There's a chain throughout history, and we're all a part of it.
Hmm.
We're all links.
Hmm. In addition to the 5 acts that came out over the span of the decade, what I found was really fascinating is that there are interludes that if you're playing the game, they are in the game themselves, so you don't have to go externally. You can find them on the internet, but what's nice is in like not the farewell edition, whatever they call it, the TV edition, I think the
Yeah, I
latest
think
edition
so. Yeah.
is it has everything in there for you to access. And in after each act is done, you get sort of this interlude that each does a slightly different thing, but often they foreshadow what's going to come up, provide additional context to characters and events that you might see. And so, with each of those, just I would encourage you to pay attention to the ways that they present this information and the characters involved within them.
Yeah. Yeah. No, there's a real economy of character. If they mention somebody, they come up again.
Yes. Yeah. It's been incredible to see just playing through the first time. The number of times I'm like, wait, oh my gosh, it's that person.
Well,
It's very
they're
good.
also on their journey too. We're all
Hmm.
on some kind of crazy journey through the zero, and boy, I sure hope we find it out of here.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. One, let's see. I think I'm trying to also make sure we're mindful of time and everything. In terms of themes, just from what I've gathered, general themes from like the Steam page and maybe some like talks that I have listened to ahead of time. We've got things like identity, debt. Debt is a huge thing we're going to address in this game. Regret, addiction, sentimentality, loss. We've referred to the specific geography of this game and how that's going to impact what we're playing. We've got architecture, we've got theater coming in. Any other references or themes that you'd want to highlight for folks to maybe keep their ears open for?
Yeah, yeah. I guess I would also highlight text adventures, just stuff we've already talked about. Text adventures, women in technology. Gosh, I'm missing things, but there's too many themes. It's I like just boiled it down into this reduction of grief.
Hmm.
That's how I think of it, and it's
Yeah,
grief. We grieve a lot of different things. So anything you could grieve, it's a theme. Horses.
love it.
That's another one.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I remember when I finished Act One, I was like, how many times did a horse show up in this game? How many times was a horse reference? Like, yeah. So that's a great shout.
Yeah.
Um, as we are finishing up, there are a couple questions that are in here. I will put in the newsletter as well for you to just reflect on as you play. If you would like, you can write in the Discord thread your responses or thoughts as you have them. You can also feel free to send an email through the newsletter. Just anything that helps encourage you. I'm a big advocate for putting down your thoughts because it not only provides a way to solidify them, to help deepen them. The act of writing, even typing, just like putting it away from your brain can really help you see it in a different light and think more critically about what you're playing. But also, it can be fun to share with other people your thoughts and then hear back what they think. So, um,
I always
one of
say
the
this. Oh, sorry.
yeah, go
I
for it,
always
go
say
for it.
this about AI and LLMs. The reason
Hmm.
I hate them is because there's so many great reasons to hate
Yeah,
LLMs.
let me
Uh,
count the ways.
but the reason I hate them is that writing is thinking, and every time you ask an LLM to say something for you, it's writing for you, and you're abdicating
Hmm.
a chance to think. If you
Yep.
can't tell from how scattered my thoughts are as I'm sort of shooting them out into space here, I prefer doing my thinking and writing. I don't know. It's my favorite way to process all the scattered ideas that float through my ADHD brain.
Honestly, same. I feel like yeah, I think and I have a lot of thoughts that are scattered and when I write them down, that's when for me things become so much more clear
Yeah.
and I would not want to give that away to anything else.
For real, sister.
Yep. um so we've got a few questions at the I'm like looking at the sort of bottom section of this notes sheet. Did you want to alternate? Because each one's like a bullet point and we
Yeah.
can read them,
Yeah,
I
yeah. Do you want
think.
me to do?
Maybe there's really two. Yeah, if you want to do the first one,
Okay.
that would be great.
Let's see. Shall I start with at your cursor?
Yes, right there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like any Like any work of magical realism, KRZ is a very political work. It has a point of view and one specific to the lives and experiences of folks in Appalachia. What is the point? What is that point of view and what are the politics of KRZ?
Yeah. Kentucky Route Zero is filled with explicit references to other works of art. We've already mentioned a few here. It's almost like the game is part collage. And if you'd like, share the references that you uncover while you're doing your spelunking.
And I just love this next one you wrote. As with any media, pay attention to details like what colors are being used or avoided, how does it set the tone, take any screenshots that strike you, how does the soundtrack or sound design add to or detract from experience? I'm also a music dum-dum, so like I'm really bad at that part, but please, so if you have insights, please let me know.
Mm-hmm.
And are there any quotes or lines that really resonate with you? Write them down or take screenshots.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And again, if you've got the screenshots, share them in the Discord. It's always so fun to see what people connect with or what strikes folks. And more often than not, I see a screenshot and I'm like, oh, I wanted to take that screenshot too. And I should have. I'm glad someone else did. And it's so fun to, again, connect with other people through games.
Yeah.
We have a bunch of additional supplementary resources that are going to be in the newsletter. These are going to be things like the soundtrack, a collection of games that Cardboard Computer also added to with another title of theirs, a smaller title called Neighbor. Katie added the incredible Kentucky Fried Zero, which is a series that annotated so many of the references from specifically Acts 1, 2, and 3, open world, tons of stuff. And again, Katie, like, I am so excited to dig into some of these because I haven't read all of them because I'm avoiding spoilers, but oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So if you aren't on the newsletter, this is my broken record moment. If you sign up for the newsletter, you'll get these in your inbox, which is so nice because then you're avoiding social media algorithms. You're avoiding, just like having to search for something. It's just right there for you whenever you're ready for it. And you can sort of pick and choose. It's like a little menu for whatever you're into and wanting to engage with that day. That all has to do with Kentucky Route Zero. So keep an eye out for that in the newsletter.
Subscribe. What are you doing?
Yeah, subscribe. And you can go to geeksandgrounds.com to do that. On February 24th, that's when we're going to begin our official descent into the Zero. I'm so excited. It's going to be so good. We'll have the full discussion, spoilers, everything on Kentucky Route Zero for you. So make sure that if you'd like to listen to it as it drops, you're finishing up the game by that point. But if you don't finish by then, that's A-okay. We still have another opportunity to discuss the game live together at the end of the month on February 28th. That is a Saturday at 3 p.m. Pacific in Discord. So plenty of opportunity to finish it through the end of what is a shorter month than usual. If you would like to come to the Discord hangout, that's at geeksandgrounds.com. And let me see. If you have any discussion questions for the podcast, I've gotten a handful already. You guys are awesome. Please email me. You can respond to the newsletter or just email Jenny at geeksandgrounds.com. If you'd like to share your thoughts on the game, maybe you have a couple sentences about something that really struck you or your favorite quote, please feel free to send that in. Again, via email is great because then I know I have permission to post it or to talk about it in the podcast. I don't like to necessarily pull things from the Discord because I feel like that's a sacred space where people can just like chat,
That's cool.
Yeah.
I like that boundary.
Yeah. Katie, remind us where people can find you, where they can find your Thousand Times Resist essay, your Kentucky Route Zero essay, and anything else that you're working on.
Yeah. You might also know me as the Slay the Princess lady. I did a Slay the Princess video. That's my big one. Right now I am working on part 2 to that video covering chapter 3. That should be out.
Yeah.
That should be out later.
I'm excited.
This month. If I can get my act together and get this thing edited. But yeah, you can find me. The channel is called Katie and Catburger because Catburger is there too sometimes. And yeah, no, please come by, come by. Would love to see you in the comments. Tell me Jenny sent you, and I'll freak out.
Yay!
And you can also follow me on Blue Sky. And it does feel a little bit forward here, but you have listed my Patreon. So,
I have, yes.
if me rambling has been worth a couple of dollars to you, there you go. There's a way to pay me.
Yes, and I'll have all those links again in the newsletter, in this video description, so you can find Katie easily. Because, yeah, it's important to support creators making amazing, thoughtful stuff. And Katie is one of those folks. So, yay. All right. Well, I think I'll be getting my truck ready. I've got my pup Blue in the back, and we will see.
Not Homer.
I did go with Blue.
I like
Early
it,
spoilers. And we will see you in the Zero next time. Bye, y'all.
Bye bye.
Got to